Let us remember that actually Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, both of them, they appear once in each day of Lord Brahma. And each day of Lord Brahma is 14 manvantaras with 71 cycles of yugas each. So in other words, it's a long time. Lord Brahma's day is really long. So therefore, Mahaprabhu, I think it is 539 years now that he appeared. So this is actually pretty recent, considering how long the day of Lord Brahma is and that he only appears once in each day of Lord Brahma. It's actually very recent. It's not that long ago, actually. Yes, and also we have to remember, that Krishna, the Supreme Lord, he expanded himself into his pleasure potency, Srimati Radharani, so he can demonstrate his loving pastimes, and so he can enjoy it because he is the supreme enjoyer. So, and now they both again appear as one person, Mahaprabhu. It is Krishna and Radharani in one person again. Yes. And for his appearance, there are external reasons which are actually secondary. And then there are the internal reasons, which are the main and foremost ones. So I do want to read with you from Adi Leela, 3rd chapter, verse 14. Adi 3:14. There it is very nicely explained, the external reasons. Because here in the mornings we usually read a little bit from the Shastra, whereas in the evenings people don't have that concentration, and after a whole day of fasting, if they fast, they are not so alert and awake. But in the morning, it's unfortunately we don't give enough time as it is to read Prabhupada's books, right? That's a big topic which is discussed in ISKCON, why this is so. So at least on these festival days, it's nice to turn to the Shastra and read what Prabhupada and the Lord himself says. So just to make it faster, we'll skip the Bengali. So 3:14, the translation is, "For a long time I have not bestowed unalloyed loving service to me upon the inhabitants of the world. Without such loving attachment, the existence of the material world is useless." So basically the Lord laments, actually for a long time I did not give the highest to this material world. So in the next verse he says, "Everywhere in the world people worship me according to scriptural injunctions, but simply by following such regulative principles, one cannot attain the loving sentiments of the devotees in Vrajabhumi." So this could easily be misinterpreted, that we may come to the conclusion, just see, no need to follow regulative principles. We can't, achieve Raja Bhakti with that mood. But now we gradually have to go upwards, and we have to start with sadhana bhakti, but then eventually it should go into raganuga sadhana bhakti. Yes, but initially we do have to follow the regulative concepts. "Knowing my opulences, The whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration, but devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. Yeah, so in other words, let's read the purport here. Prabhupada's purport. After his appearance, Lord Krishna thought that he had not distributed the transcendental personal dealings with his devotees in Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. One may understand the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the Vedic literatures and thus become a devotee of the Lord and worship him within the regulative principles described in the scriptures. But one will not know in this way how Krishna is served by the residents of Vrajabhumi. One cannot understand the dealings of the Lord in Vrindavan simply by executing the ritualistic regulative principles mentioned in the scriptures. By following scriptural injunctions, one may enhance his appreciation for the glories of the Lord. So that's where we are standing, you know. So we do need the scriptural injunctions just to enhance our appreciation for the glories of the Lord. But there is no chance for one to enter into personal dealings with him, giving too much attention to understanding the exalted glories of the Lord reduces the chance of one's entering into personal loving affairs with the Lord. To teach the principles of such loving dealings, the Lord decided to appear as Lord Chaitanya. Yes, so Prabhupada explains it very nicely. And I guess that's why also Rupa Goswami, you know, he's saying, what is it? To be too attached to the rules or regulations or to neglect them, you know, both are impediments. So sometimes we find we are too attached to, it has to be all rules and regulations. So this is actually an obstacle on the process of bhakti. So yeah, we have to understand the principles of the rules and we have to follow them. But if we get too attached and pedantic about all different little details of the rules, yeah, this can be an impediment. By performing such regulated devotional service in awe and veneration, one may go to Vaikuntha and attain the 4 kinds of liberation. These liberations are Shasti, achieving opulences equal to those of the Lord; Sarupya, having a form the same as the Lord's; Samipriya, living as a personal associate of the Lord; and Shalokya, living on a Vaikuntha planet. Devotees never accept Sayujya, however, since that is oneness with Brahman. We'll skip the purport out of lack of time. I shall personally inaugurate the religion of the age, Nam Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the Lord. I shall make the Lord dance in ecstasy, realizing the 4 mellows of loving devotional service. So yeah, that's why he appeared. That's the external reason, you know, that he laments, I have not given the highest, so therefore let me flood the world with pure bhakti. I shall accept the role of a devotee, and I shall teach devotional service by practicing it myself. Unless one practices devotional service himself, he cannot teach it to others. This conclusion is indeed confirmed throughout the Gita and the Bhagavatam. So that's good for us to remember. Our practice speaks louder than our words. Yeah, maybe we'll leave it at that. Yeah, so these are the external reasons, which are actually secondary. And the primary reasons, they're more intimate and more confidential. Let me just go back here. Where am I? So we go to Adi Lila 4, and we want to read there the summary. Because in the summary, Prabhupada very nicely explains the internal reasons. Prabhu, you have that there? The Adi 4? You have? Okay, good. So, Prabhupada gives this nice summary. In this chapter of the epic Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has stressed that Lord Chaitanya appeared for three principal purposes of his own. And yeah, this is pretty deep and subtle, so please carefully listen. The first purpose was to relish the position of Srimati Radharani, who is the prime reciprocator of transcendental love of Sri Krishna. Lord Krishna is the reservoir of transcendental loving transactions with Srimati Radharani. The subject of those loving transactions is the Lord himself, and Radharani is the object. Right? Thus, the object, the Lord, wanted to relish the loving mellow in the position of thus the subject, the Lord, wanted to relish the living mellow in the position of the object, Radharani. So in other words, Krishna's object of love is Radharani. And now Krishna wants to understand, what does it feel like to be there as object, right? The second reason for his appearance was to understand the transcendental mellow of himself. Lord Krishna is all sweetness. Radharani's attraction for Krishna is sublime, and to experience that attraction and understand the transcendental sweetness of himself, he accepted the mentality of Radharani. So this is all pretty deep and esoteric. No questions now, please. We've got only 35 minutes time, sorry. Yes, so these, reasons are so in very subtle ways, they're different from each other, The first one, he simply wants to experience what it is like to be the object. Then the second one, he actually wants to understand his own mellows. That Lord Krishna is all sweetness, and Radharani is attracted to the sublime sweetness. So now he wants to understand the transcendental sweetness of himself from the position of Radharani. Right? Yes. So then the third reason that Lord Chaitanya appeared was to enjoy the bliss tasted by Radharani. The Lord thought that undoubtedly Radharani enjoyed his company and he enjoyed the company of Radharani. But the exchange of transcendental mellow between the spiritual couple was more pleasing to Srimati Radharani than to Krishna. So that is also an astounding fact, that actually Radharani enjoys more in that relationship. Even though Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, he is the Lord, one may think he actually enjoys more. But no, actually Radharani enjoys more than Krishna. Yes. Because, we have the perverted reflection also in this material world. When we give ourselves in love, in devotion, when we sacrifice ourselves, we actually experience a higher pleasure. The giving is more satisfying than the receiving, right? Yes. So, and the same principle is also there on the highest transcendental platform between Radha and Krishna. Was more pleasing to Srimati Radharani than to Krishna. Yeah. Radharani felt more transcendental pleasure in the company of Krishna than he could understand without taking her position. But for Sri Krishna to enjoy in the position of Srimati Radharani was impossible, because that position was completely foreign to him. Even though he is Krishna, he is God. But still, it was foreign to him what pleasure and unlimited bliss Radharani experiences. Krishna is the transcendental male, and Radharani is the transcendental female. Therefore, to know the transcendental pleasure of loving Krishna, Lord Krishna himself appeared as Lord Chaitanya, accepting the emotions and bodily luster of Srimati Radharani. Lord Chaitanya appeared in order to fulfill these confidential desires, and also to preach the special significance of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, and to answer the call of Advaita Prabhu. These were secondary reasons, actually the spreading of the holy name and to reciprocate with the call of Advaita Prabhu. These are all secondary reasons, but the primary, the main ones are the Lord's desire to experience Radharani's bliss and to also understand his own sweetness more from the position of Radharani, and to simply exchange the object and the subject there. Yeah, so obviously these are topics which we would not discuss in the evening program of Gaura Purnima, right? So that's why usually these more deeper and confidential topics, they are meant to be discussed in the confidential group of seriously practicing devotees. And yeah, it's not that I am deeply realizing these things, so, but we have to hear them again and again and try to understand them and so on, in order to gradually get some little insights there. Yes, so now, in order to understand Lord Chaitanya's mood, we actually have to understand first a little bit Srimati Radharani's mood, right? Because he appears in order to taste, her bliss, right? So that's why very often on Gopani, we actually talk a little bit about Srimati Radharani, just to become more to understand more deeply Mahaprabhu's mood. So yeah, Radharani, she is the supreme example of a devotee, of devotion. She actually embodies the highest level of pure bhakti. Right? She's the personification of that. And nothing can stand in the way of her service. Absolutely nothing. She's willing to sacrifice absolutely everything. Yeah, she is willing to sacrifice absolutely everything, her very self, her very life, simply for the pleasure of Krishna. That's her mood. You know? She gives up all attachments, all considerations of family, social norms, all different, even her own reputation, because in those days a woman was completely, almost, it would be considered social suicide if a woman leaves her husband at night and meets a lover in the forest. Today this is quite common. So, as we say, what is the topmost in the spiritual world, perverted of reflection, is the lowest in the material world. So yeah, nobody in those days would ever dare to do anything like that. It would completely ruin our reputation, completely. We would be ostracized, we would be, we would be expelled from society, if a woman would do this. But even that, Radharani accepted that risk. Yes. We can just, we talked about it the last couple of days. We are usually so attached to our reputation, what everybody thinks of me. Yes, and to actually sacrifice that, simply wanting to please the Lord, that's a very high level of self-sacrifice, actually. So she, she allows herself to be enjoyed, and simply her very existence is meant to give pleasure to Krishna and nothing else. So she sacrifices her very self, and in that way she becomes the controller of the supreme controller. Yes, Srimati Radharani controls Krishna through her mode of sacrifice. Yeah. And again, we can say the same principle in a perverted reflection we also find in the husband-wife relationship. That if the wife learns the art of simply pleasing the husband and serving him, she can conquer his heart, and ultimately she can control him, but not by telling him what to do and what not to do. Yes. Radharani doesn't do that. She doesn't tell Krishna what to do and what not to do. But no, simply by being ready to sacrifice herself, that's how she controls him. Yes, there is a few nice statements which are very deep and sweet, where Radharani, or where actually Mahaprabhu speaks in Radharani's mood. This is in Antya Leela 20:52. very, very high level of devotion. Radharani says, I do not mind my personal distress. I only wish for the happiness of Krishna, for his happiness is the goal of my life. However, if he feels great happiness in giving me distress, that distress is the best of my happiness. So that's Radharani's mood, that she has absolutely no interest in her own happiness. No, that's not an issue for her. All she wants is Krishna's satisfaction, Krishna's happiness. And if he gives her suffering, distress, as long as it makes him happy, then that distress becomes Radharani's happiness. I mean, if we had that mood in married life, then there would be no marriage problems. If we had only one little drop of this mood, saying, all I want is to see my wife, my husband happy. I don't want any happiness for myself. All I want to do is serve and see the other person happy. And if I experience some unhappiness on this path, if it is happiness and pleasing to him or her, then this will be the greatest happiness for me, even if it is austerity, distress, and that's love. Yeah, that's love. So we can just see how far we are away, in our marriage relationship, how far away we are from pure love. It's actually the relationship which is furthest away from pure love. This is also explained in this chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita. What is love? What is lust? That yes, lust, we are willing to accept anything for my pleasure. We are willing to sacrifice ourselves for my pleasure. But love is we are willing to sacrifice ourselves for the pleasure of the beloved. Completely selfless. And in no other relationship do we have as many expectations on sense gratification as in this man-woman relationship. So it's actually the furthest away from love. Even though we always think, oh, I'm in love, but no, it's actually lust. A little sobering to understand. Yeah, so that's Radharani's mood, that she is willing to accept any kind of distress and unhappiness. And as long as it is pleasing to Krishna, that distress becomes the best of her happiness. So that is actually a nice meditation which we should be striving for in our devotional life, because I'm assuming we are all here because we want to actually cultivate pure bhakti. So that's what pure bhakti is all about, to actually get out of our comfort zone, sacrificing ourselves, yes, for the pleasure of the Lord and the pleasure of the devotees. There's another nice statement which, Rupa Goswami says, O Lord Krishna, you are just like an ocean. The river of Srimati Radharani has reached you from a long distance, leaving far behind the tree of her husband, breaking through the bridges of social conventions, and forcibly crossing the hills of elder relatives. So in other words, Radharani's attraction is like a strong river simply flowing to Krishna. Nothing can stop that flow. Anybody who's been to Mayapur, Ganges, very strong current, you know. Nothing can stop the Ganges from flowing. The Ganges finds her way, you know, yes. So and that's what Srimati Radharani's devotion is like. Nothing can stop that flow of devotion to Krishna's lotus feet. Even, you know, all the family attachments, they're very deep, you know, even though, yes, in Kali Yuga, we're not even on that level, you know, that we have deep family attachments. This is actually animal life. Most animals, they don't have, you know, deeper relationships with, you know, their husband, wife, children. Although there is some animals, like the storks, you know, storks with the birds with the red legs. So they stay together with, you know, with each other for their whole life. But I heard it's more the attachment to the nest than the attachment to each other. But so even though they fly in winter to Africa, when it gets too cold here, and then they come back, but they come back to the same nest without GPS and compass and all these things, map. You know, I mean, that's a miracle, how they find the same nest, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. You know? Yeah, so, but it's the attachment to the nest which keeps the he and she stork together, you know. Yes. But at least that, you know. so I sometimes say the storks are more civilized than we human beings, you know. So at least they stick together for their whole life, you know, whereas we don't, you know. Yeah, so, but that's the point. If we actually develop, you know, harmonious family life, then the bonds are very deep and strong. But only when we go through this deep attachment is our detachment complete, actually. We may say, well, these family bonds, you know, so entangling, better I don't develop affectionate relationships with my husband, wife, parents, or whatever. Then it's easier to give them up. But no, that kind of detachment is actually incomplete. Yeah, good to understand that, you know. We can take the example, a poor person can very easily say, oh, I'm detached, because he's got no money in the pocket to enjoy life. You know, so that detachment is not complete, right? And very often we see this when devotees from poor countries, they go to America or Germany and they actually get bewildered by all the opportunities to enjoy. Whereas when they were in their home country, where life is more simple and poor, they seemed very strong, you know? Yeah, so that detachment is incomplete. So, yeah, very often we misunderstand these things. But yeah, anyway, so yes, Srimati Radharani, she personifies this mood of self-sacrifice. And of course, as we all know, she also personifies the highest level of bhakti in separation. Yes, because most of the times, Radharani is actually separated from Krishna, you know, and the separation is even a higher form of devotion, of blissful experience, you know, to actually meditate and long for, you know, the personality's association. And we even may have a little bit that experience too. Let's imagine we are planning to go to India, or we are coming back from Mayapur. So we may feel this separation. And very often in this mood of separation, we are actually more in Mayapur than when we are actually there. Right? Yes. So we long, we remember, and we hope for the day to come again when we can be there. And oh, I wish I could be there. So very often, when we actually have that strong feeling of separation, we feel more joy than actually being there. When we are there, we may not even appreciate so much our good fortune of being there, and we may not fully take advantage, and we may be disturbed about so many things going on around us, or we are sick, or this and that, So that's, some little glimpse of understanding how actually in separation we can be more present there, we can have more that association than when we are actually there. Or even, let's say, a husband and wife do have a harmonious, affectionate relationship. So then when there is some separation, we say, separation makes the heart grow fonder. Right? You heard that saying? Yes. So it's not bad to have some separation every now and again, and actually that deepens our relationship because we appreciate and we long for that person's association. Yeah, so, and also this mood of separation we can find in the 6 Goswamis, right? Yes, they were also always longing, hankering. They never were saying, I have seen Krishna. No, that's not the mood of a devotee. I have seen Krishna, I know Krishna. No, the longing, whatever little I have experienced is nothing, So the 6 Goswamis, they were wandering around in Vrindavan. Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? Longing for Krishna, Yes. So, and of course Mahaprabhu also, he embodied this mood of longing, yes. And Prabhupada also tells us that, we should feel separation from Krishna, and that actually is a sign of that we are advancing when we are feeling separation. So feeling separation means we can't stop thinking about Krishna. We can't stop thinking about him. We want to hear about him. That's the mood of separation. Yes. So Prabhupada often was stressing this, don't try to artificially see Krishna, but become advanced in separation. And that exactly is what Mahaprabhu is teaching us, actually. So he comes as a devotee and is maddened by separation from Krishna. Yeah, so, and Mahaprabhu, he was maddened, just like Srimati Radharani, was maddened in separation from Krishna, talking to the bumblebees, and so in the same way, Mahaprabhu was also maddened in that mood of separation, thinking the Ganges to be the Yamuna, getting all mixed up, and embracing the trees, thinking it's Krishna, so, and exactly that mood of separation, this is what we should be cultivating, simply by chanting the holy name. Yes. that opens the path, you know, to actually enter Govinda. So that's why the chanting is such a deep science, you know. If we just walk around with a counter and rattle something down, I mean, this is, it's useless. It's really useless. It will not get us anywhere, you know. That's why we can't emphasize enough the importance of really endeavoring to get on deeper levels of chanting. Yes. It requires constant endeavor. Yes. As we are saying, Sadatam Kirtanam Amyatinta Sadatam. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination. So this endeavoring with great determination, this has to be there in all aspects of service. There's also one nice purport where Prabhupada says, an easygoing life and advancement in Krishna consciousness do not go together. So in Krishna consciousness, there is no room for an easygoing life. Yes, no room. If we think this is what Krishna consciousness is all about, just to find our little corner where we are peaceful and have an easygoing life, we are simply missing the whole point. We are missing out. You know? Yes. We have to endeavor with great determination. Doesn't matter, you know, what service we do, and especially also in the chanting. You know, yes, in the chanting there has to be some intense endeavoring. The chanting should become our dearmost and most important thing of the whole day, is the chanting. And as we mentioned already a few times here and there, you know, yesterday I think also, yes, Prabhupada gave us the analogy how we should be chanting, like a child helplessly crying out for Krishna. That's how we are meant to chant. And also Rupa Goswami gives us this nice understanding. The only qualification we need to have to actually cultivate pure bhakti is intense greed, longing, lolyam. That's what we need. You know, we actually don't have to be a pundit and know so many verses. I'm not very learned actually. Whatever little I can say is all based on realizations coming from Krishna. I haven't studied Bhakti Vaibhava and all these things. So actually no need. No real need. I mean, for preaching it's often useful to know the Shastra a little bit. But it's not required for Bhakti. It's not required. You know, we don't have to be super intelligent or good singer or this or that. No, all we need is intense longing for Krishna. That's the qualification. So, and exactly that connects with this mood of separation, which Mahaprabhu is in. Yes, this longing for the relationship, longing to serve. Yeah. So, and in chanting, that's the time when we express this longing to the Lord. Yeah. Yeah. Even kirtan, we can say, is like the perfect and sublime love song. You know? I love you. I cannot be without you. Where are you? When will I see you again? This is actually what kirtan is all about. You know? And all these love or lust songs of the material world, they're like the perverted reflection of the real love song, which is for Krishna. Nobody else. You know? Yeah, so that's what we should cultivate, you know, this longing, expressing this longing for the relationship, longing to serve. Yeah, and that's what we express in chanting, not only in kirtan but in japa also. You know, yeah. This connection with Krishna has to be built in japa first. Yeah. So that's basically what Mahaprabhu came for, to teach us that. You know. So yeah, it sounds so contradictory that in the most fallen and most lustful age of Kali Yuga, we can achieve the highest level of perfection and pure Raja Bhakti. You know, it's quite mind-blowing actually if we think about it. You know? Yeah. So that's why Mahaprabhu appeared, to give us that and to demonstrate himself, but also to experience what Radharani experiences. All right, 3 minutes for any kind of comments, additions, questions, if I can answer them. Is there anything? Yes, Mataji.
I've heard that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was here, he delivered the whole universe. He delivered the whole universe when he was here. I've heard this from devotees and would like to elaborate on this.
Well, I would have to see in what context the statement is. But I would understand it in this way, that yeah, he delivered the whole universe because he gives this opportunity, you know? But it's up to each and every conditioned soul to accept, you know, the opportunity or not. You know? And even when Mahaprabhu was appearing, still there were so many personalities who did not recognize him, who did not follow his instructions or something. You know, so, yes. But yeah, I mean, he gives everyone the chance. And we say the transcendental sound vibration, you know, floods, yeah, ultimately the whole universe. You know, it's not limited just to here, our temple in Sofia or something. But yeah, it's a very broad vision, you know. But how much the living entities are taking advantage of it, and the heavenly planets, hellish planets of this universe, is another question. I mean, we know also that the demigods are queuing up to take birth on this planet Earth, because the planet Earth is actually the most suitable planet to take up, you know, pure devotional service. Heavenly planets, demigods, they're often lamenting, so much sense gratification and so easily we forget your lotus feet. You know, they're lamenting. And hellish planets, yeah, there's so much disturbances and challenges there, then it's also difficult to really accept the process of bhakti, you know. But earthly planet, perfect mixture. Quite a bit of distress and some little pleasing moments there, some little sense gratification and comfort is there. So it's actually the perfect place, you know. Yeah, so on this auspicious day, let us remember our amazing opportunity we all have to really take fully, opportunity to take advantage of what Mahaprabhu has given us, and of course ultimately what Prabhupada has given us. Because without Prabhupada, we wouldn't know anything about Mahaprabhu. Let's always remember that. That Prabhupada is that amazing personality who, in the mood of Lord Nityananda, came to the Western world and the whole world and saved the most fallen ones, all Asjagais and Madais, who did so many ridiculous activities beforehand. At least for my humble self, I can say that that I wouldn't even want to think about my life before Krishna consciousness. So and once we experience how our life gets so transformed, then it should be the most natural thing that we want to sacrifice ourselves to help others and reach out and in whatever ways we can to help them to also relish Krishna consciousness and transform their lives. Alright, so we'll leave it at that. And this evening we continue. I guess this evening we probably have to do sentence by sentence translation, I assume. So but evening lecture is usually more simple. And how long? I actually haven't even seen a schedule. I don't even know exactly what happens today.
4 o'clock bhajan, 4:30 Abhishek, 6 Gaura, 6:30 lecture, till 7:30. 7:30, 7:40.
Okay. And then feast or kirtan again, or what happens then?
Feast.
Feast. Okay, good. All right. So thank you for allowing me to celebrate with you this wonderful day of Gaura Purnima. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki, Shri Gaura Purnima Mahotsava ki, Gaura Premananda.